Hi there, welcome to Boxing Deep Dive. I'm Lyndon Hosking, and great to have you along for episode number 42 as we get closer and closer to the number 50. Who would have thought we'd be here almost a year? So it's been good. I'm going to bring in my co-host tonight. We've got plenty to talk about. I'm referring to Grant Tassie Brown. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks, Lyndon. And I can't see another little box at the end of the. Usually there's another little box underneath me. And,
I know, mate.
The bloke lets you do the quiz with, little young Peter.
I know. Peter, let's just say he's not available for a few weeks. That's probably the extent of it, I suppose. So
yeah. No, that's fair enough, mate. Look.
Can you blame him?
When you're getting your ass kicked, mate, when you're getting your ass kicked every single week, it's going to take a toll on you mentally and physically. I mean, look, he's great at what he does. I respect the man, and he messaged me the other day, about some boxing business, and he's a great guy. Much love for Peter. But when you're going, one win one week, one win the other week, we're both pretty even. But this year, 222, it's been an absolute whitewash on Boxing Deep Dive. I've got people mess with me all the time, like Bill Hacking, Norfolk, Tasmania, Big Billy, how are you, buddy? They go, mate, Tassie, you took it to another level. Like, what's changed? I said, mate, I'm just, I'm in that momentum. I've got that draw, and I'm in that zone, man. When you get that zone, Lyndon, like when you was an amateur, when you had that great run of winning titles and knocking people out, you just get into a zone, mate. And I feel like at the moment I'm untouchable in the quiz. I don't care who it is. Bring it on.
So it might be for the best, and he just takes a few weeks off just to get his head together and maybe get his mental health right before he comes back.
Well, Lyndon, in boxing, as you know, professional boxing is very safe.
Yep.
You get knocked out, you get 30 days. So, mate.
So you need 60 days then.
Well, yeah.
He'll be all right. No, I'm sure he'll be back. Well, mate, we've got a lot to get through tonight. Of course, we've got all the Aussie news, world news. We've got... we'll go over the Commonwealth Games tonight. A fair bit of that going on. Speak of the amateurs, I did do a segment on my Talking Boxing show that's streamed live of the Monday night. So check that out on YouTube and Facebook, where I interact with everyone out there. And I actually did a top 10 of all time, the amateurs. Now, it's always fraught with danger, I got to say, when you put out a top 10 list of anything. And it's fair to say there was a little bit of feedback. And we'll go over that anyway, mate. But I want to get your thoughts on my list, but also your own list as well. So it's just everyone's opinion is different. Let me just say that for starters. It was just my opinion, and maybe if I had a little bit more time to do some delving, I would have maybe had a couple of things different. But I stand by my list. But I'm really looking forward to seeing your list, mate. So we'll go over that a little bit later.
Mate. Me too. I love one thing I love doing. I love talking amateur boxing, especially amateur boxing from the past. You know what I mean? I love it.
Yeah, it doesn't get spoken about enough, unfortunately, and it's only when the Olympics and Commonwealth Games come around.
You know why, don't you?
Why is that?
Most people don't know shit about boxing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, look, amateur boxing. I mean, before the Russians and the Cubans and that were allowed to turn pro, I mean, most of the best fighters in the world weren't actually professionals. They were amateurs. And I hate that. I just said the other night, I hate the term amateur. It's a really bad term. It's at one stage they went to Olympic-style boxing. There's got to be something else, because amateur is a really, really bad word for boxers. I know it's about not getting paid, but it almost insinuates that they're not on a level as a lot of the professionals, and most of them are, the good ones.
Mate, we've had many, the great Teofilo Stevenson, Felix Swann.
Yep. Never turned pro.
Many a great fighter that never turned pro. So and Russian Cubans, but mainly a lot of the Cubans, mate, that they didn't amazing. What a great boxing country Cuba is.
So we'll go over that anyway. We'll get first of all into the Aussie news, mate, and it started look a little bit slow, but a fair bit's happened in the last week or so, and not all of it's good. I'm referring to, of course, the first bit of news that came out yesterday was, of course, the passing of Johnny Famechon. You can see they're 1945 to 2022. Just just a legend. I suppose that's the only word you can sort of say about Johnny Famechon. Back in the day, he won the title in '69. Australian Hall of Fame member, all that sort of stuff. I'll go over some achievements in a minute. But yeah, it come out of the blue. I think it was yesterday. We're recording this on Friday night. It come out on Thursday. Yeah, a little bit of a shock when that sort of happens, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. What can you say? A legend, an icon of Australian boxing, a man that I grew up, my father and grandfather telling me stories about. And my grandfather, Lenny, was a massive Famechon fan. Because my grandfather was more, if he was a boxer mover, he liked you better than a walk-up fighter. So my dad was more, like a Lionel Rose fan and people like that. But my grandfather was really, he loved the purity of boxing. So Johnny Famechon was trained by the great Ambrose Palmer, who was a beautiful boxer as well back in the day, a beautiful left jab. And if you was an Ambrose Palmer trained boxer, you had your skill set down perfect. You had a good defense. You had a good ring IQ, and you had that good left jab. And that's an Ambrose Palmer fighter. Johnny Famechon's father was a boxer as well in France. And, mate, he's just, he was at that era of Australian boxing along with Lionel Rose. It was a golden era, and it was a time that really boxing peaked at, I believe, in Australia. And he went over and beat the great Jose Alegre. I remember I got the name a bit mixed up there, but he beat a great Cuban champion, and he defended it twice against Fighter Rada and knocked out Fighter Rada in Japan, which was a great feat. And, mate, he's just a great, great, beautiful fighter. And he's one of our greatest ever. He was in my top 10. And I'm very saddened to hear of his passing. And I got to meet him a couple of times. And once, as an amateur, actually at one of the nationals, mate, I'll get chills right now. They stopped everything. And when they wheeled him in his wheelchair after that shocking accident where he got hit by a car, the whole crowd just stood up and applauded. And I'll get chills now thinking about it. I remember I was 18 or 19. Everyone just applauded this champion, and it was beautiful. And that's what he deserved. And, I'm very sad to hear the loss of Johnny Famechon, mate.
Yeah, it closes another chapter. I mean, we obviously lost Lionel Rose a few years back now, and it's always hard when you lose these champions. He actually had a 56-5 record, 6 draws as well, by the way, 20 knockouts. He's got his statue down in Frankston. I remember that was about 3 or 4 years ago. I remember Zuma Nelson came out for all that as well, and he got an Order of Australia this year as well. So, yeah. So just a legend. AMBF, so Hall of Fame in 2003, became a legend in 2012. So I'm sure at the Hall of Fame inductions in a couple of weeks' time that I'm sure they'll give him the 10 count there. But Vale Johnny Famechon, one of Australia's greatest ever fighters.
Yeah, amen to that, Lyndon, and rest in peace, great legend.
All right, mate. Well, let's get on to some other Aussie news. One thing just quickly I want to just run by is I saw the other day that Dean Lonergan's in England at the moment and is talking up this fight, Jai Patai versus Chris Billam-Smith, for potentially 2023. What do you think of that as a fight?
I spoke to Dean the day he left, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, about some other business. Mate, I don't know Chris Billam-Smith, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about him. I mean, I've got my eyes in his on boxing, but
well, he hasn't done a lot, has he?
Cruiserweight division is not a division I really pay attention to as much.
Yep.
No disrespect to the cruiser division, but I don't know the guy. So look, I'm happy for Jai to fight anyone, mate. He's a legend. He proved, he's a lineal champion after beating Breeders. But mate, I can't say, Linda, I don't know nothing about this guy.
No, I was hoping you would know because I don't know either. So
maybe Mike out Tamura.
He would know.
Phone a friend. He could probably tell you what the guy had for breakfast and what he'd done as an amateur, mate. So,
I did look his record up on BoxRec, and he's 16-1. He's won the Commonwealth title. He's okay, but it hasn't really fought anyone of note. But what I will say is that if anyone deserves I won't say a soft defence, but to be able to choose the fighter for the comeback, it's Jai Patai. I mean, I know he's going to have a mandatory at some stage.
He's got no mandatory, so
yeah.
And I mean, look, Dean's great at what he does. And look, Jeff Horn had I guess, probably a bit of a softer.
Yeah, he did. Gary Corcoran.
But then he fought Terence Crawford. So I'm sure that Jai will probably fight this guy, and then the next one will be a big one.
Yeah, no doubt. And it says early 2003 because obviously he's had the jaw, and not just the jaw, but just the fight itself. It was just a really, really tough fight that you don't blame him for taking 6, 7, 8 months off, do you? I mean, he fully deserves it. So whatever he chooses.
He was in camp, mate. The phone got postponed twice, I think. So he was in camp for a long time.
Yeah, no, he was. And as you said, Dean Lonergan, he's I think one of the best in the business. So whatever he chooses will be for Jai's benefit. I see this week too was announced the September 3 Ace Boxing show. Well, obviously it's a little bit, about a month away, so we'll cover it a bit closer. But I did see that Beck Hawker has got the WIBA featherweight world title fight against Holly Toll. Is that how you, or Towel, I suppose you pronounce it? So should be a pretty good card, that one. They've got, I like the undercard as well. They've got Adrian Rodriguez against Victor Nagby. That'll be a really good fight, that one. That's for the Australian Super Welterweight title. Ty Narkle against Rocky Ogden for the Australian Featherweight title. Abdul Mayweather versus Ali Elridge for the Australian Super Middleweight title. So Australian title fights just going everywhere here. And then Vegas Larfield, who's a great young talent, will be fighting Sanadi Gamboa. So, yeah, they do it pretty well up in Queensland, don't they, with the Ace Boxing boys and girls?
But D'Angelo Carlo 2 days ago as well.
Oh, did you?
On the phone, everyone at the moment, Lyndon.
You should be recording these conversations on video so we can put the clips up.
I'm just calling everyone at the moment, mate. Yeah, mate. Look, Ange does some great things, mate, in the sport, and he's he's one of the leading guys in the country, and he's mixed. Now they've got the with the what's it called, BN or Binge or
BN Sports,
the TV stuff, and BN Sports. So, mate, he's putting together cards regularly. Obviously, he's he's right behind the Eddie Hearn show as well. So, mate, Beck Hawker's I know Beck Hawker very well. She come down to Tasmania and upset our girl, but mate, she's a great fighter. I know the WIBA as well because I got the super featherweight version for Mousy Jacobs, and so Beck Hawker, mate. Look, mate, I think she'll win this. I think she's a very good fighter, and again, mate, with women's boxing. Booming in Queensland, women's boxing as well. Like, Shannon comes from there. Taylor Robertson comes from there.
Shanika Johnson.
Sky Nicholson comes from there. Beck Hawker comes from there. I mean, it's it should be a good card.
Yeah, it will be, and as you said, it's on BN Sports. I'm really glad that that's happened. We obviously remember the last show that you had, it was the Billy Dibb Jacob NG show, and there's a little bit of trouble afterwards, and it wasn't that one. It was the one after.
After that.
It was the young fellow Matteo Mattei, I think it was, played up a bit. Yeah, sorry. So and really hoping that wouldn't affect it. And obviously it hasn't. So and this card looks like a ripper too. So I'll be definitely tuning in that. So that's if you've got Foxtel, it'll be free. So tune in. Get right behind the event, get the numbers up, because one thing to remember is that Foxtel or BN or whatever it is, they look at the numbers. That's what they're looking at to see whether we can get more of these going forward. So tune in, get the numbers up, and support Ace Boxing and Australian Boxing. It's a good one.
Totally agree, Lyndon, 100%.
All right, mate. Another thing I saw, I was up in two minds about putting it up, but we do consider Paul Gallen a real fighter these days.
Mate, he took everyone's, Hooney fucking 9 rounds, mate. Like,
10 rounds.
I respect when he's a good fighter, but everyone sort of raves about him. Mate, this guy is a real fighter.
Yep. What he's doing here, though, is more like a WWE type of thing, though. He's looking to fight two fighters in one night.
I think he's finishing, though.
Yep.
So,
yeah, good point.
I think he's done, mate. Good luck to him, mate. I like Paul.
Yeah, no, I do too. I'm a fan of Paul Gallen, what he's been able to achieve, and you're right though, mate. Like it's a bit of a swan song for him, so you can't blame him for wanting to earn a few bucks and have a bit of a novelty on. I think they're going to do it in Queensland, I think. So Justin Hodges and Ben Hannett are the fighters they're talking about at the moment.
He lost a bet with Hodges about State of Origin. Is there a second name mentioned?
Yeah, Ben Hannett. He's the one that Hodges fought last time, I think it is. So he looks like the one that got Ben Hannett. So his name is. I don't know anything about him. So
he'll fight both them guys
in one night, and I think he'll knock them both out. So
I think so too.
Look, the thing is, I don't know what the big thing like with why Justin Hodges would be, and I don't know anything about Justin Hodges about the rugby side. I'm only looking at the boxing side. Why he'd be calling Paul Gallen out? You remember he got starched in the first round by a guy that Paul Gallen knocked out in a couple of rounds. I can't remember his name. He was another rugby player, but not sure I'd be calling out Paul Gallen if I was Justin Hodges, unless obviously he wants the payday, and you can't blame him. I suppose it is prize fighting after all. So good on him. But one thing I will say though, mate, good on Paul Gallen for what he's doing, but I will not be paying 1 cent. There's going to be a main event for it, $60. I'm going to keep my money for something else, I think. So anyway, my 2 cents. What about yourself? Will you be tuning in? Come on.
Lyndon, I'm a big supporter of No Limit.
I'm not saying No Limit. Talking about this fight.
Let me finish. I'm a big fan of Gallen. I don't know who's on the undercard yet. So as for the main event, I won't be buying it. If it's a good undercard with some good Australian talent, I might, Lyndon. I just might.
No, very good point. I must admit I didn't really think of that intangible. I looked at the main event. If they have a good undercard, then of course I'll fork out the money. I'll just go early when this main event's
Getting
on.
very angry lately, Lyndon. You've been hanging around me too long.
Well,
real placid bloke when I met you, but a few years of Tassie Brown, and now you're an angry man.
Not afraid to have my say, Tassie, and that's I think in this day and age you've got to step up if you see something. But you're 100% right that I didn't think of the undercard.
If there's a Liam Wilson or Nikita Zoo, or there's some good talent, what's the young bloke name? Sam
Goodman.
Someone like that.
Yeah.
Then, yeah. And that's what Gallen has brought to all this.
He has.
He's put eyes on all these guys. Remember Timmy Zoo come up under Gallen as well. I mean, a lot. So he has put the eyes. I said, look, I'm not a fan of all these other ones, but he has been legit, Paul.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying he hasn't. Look, as always, mate, you put it in perspective a bit there. I'm looking at it for what it is as a bit of a circus act of fighting two fighters, but no, you're right. It's a money, as I get back in the focus there, it's a money thing, and also, hang on, I'll just put my hand there so I can maybe come back in the focus there. There we go. Probably the best thing I'm out of focus, but yeah, no, you're right. The money and the undercard, you're right, but I'll just reserve judgment on the $60.
Wasn't you a male? Didn't you win Bendigo Male Model of the Year back in...
Me? No, not a chance,
92, mate. 93?
Not a chance.
Or was it Scott, your brother?
Might have been him. Might have been my brother, yeah. But no, I lucked out finding my beautiful wife because outside of that I would have been a lonely man. But anyway, let's go on some more Australian stuff again, mate. I'm talking about the Commonwealth Games this time. We've had some mixed results. I think we've still got 5 fighters in the event. 6 have obviously exited. I'm going to put the results up now so to quickly go through them. So if you can make sense out, the red is the ones that have been eliminated. So Billy Polkinghorne won the first fight and then was eliminated in his second fight by the Ugandan. Christy Harris was eliminated. Charlie Senior, Bill McAllister and Taya Ahmed have all been eliminated as well. But as I said, we've still got 5 fighters in there. Before I get on to them though, Tassie, and look, it's been really good. I mean, I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen bits and pieces, and the boxers look like we've got a pretty good team. One fight I want to show you, I'm not sure whether you've seen the highlights, was Alex Winwood. Now, he was stopped in 2 rounds.
I want to see this.
Yeah,
I've heard about it.
He was stopped in 2 rounds by the Zambian. Now, I want you to just watch this, and then I'll let you comment. This comes on pretty much straight away with a knockout. Here we go.
Good.
That big breakthrough, and that breakthrough immediately comes back the other way. Chinyemba, and it's waved off immediately. The referee says that's that. It's all over. No count, nothing. Chinyemba turns the tables spectacularly. As if to say,
watch the replay here.
I lost that first round, you took it from me, that's all you're taking.
It was a fireball on the right hand, it really was. I think it looked more impressive when Winwood was throwing. So sometimes when you're throwing your shot, you get caught, you swing as your arm swings as well, and it looks like you're all over the place. It was a lovely shot. Foot extension right at the end of the shot. It's a great punch. But again, as Winwood was throwing, it looks worse than possibly he is. He's got it, he's clear, and he's fine, and I think he should have been allowed to continue.
What do you think of that, mate? Like, I'll get your opinion first. So he gets dropped.
Well,
she waves it off.
Who the fuck is she? What does she know about boxing? Who the fuck is she, mate? Is she an ex-boxer, or is she just some stupid bitch?
Well, we won't call her a stupid bitch, but look, my point.
I just did.
I've got 3 points. The first one I can see there is that it was a good shot to put him down. Let's not make any mistake about that. He got put down by a good shot.
Get knocked down.
First point.
Knocked down. Yeah.
First point. Counted to 2 and waved it off without even having even attempt to get up. Waved it off. Point number 2. She was not looking at his face. She was looking at the back of his head. How are you supposed to get an indication of what the fighter's condition is if you don't even look at his face? Waved it off. The third point. Waved it off without even doing the 8 count. Now, in the amateurs, the 8 count was actually brought in. It's probably the same as the pros to take that time to assess the status of the boxer. So not only did she not even look at him, bother to count, it was just waved off. Now, I'll speak first, mate. Well, you've already had your say there. My thing with it, without offending all the little, political correctness, bloody, people out there that we see every day. What I'm going to say is,
offend them. Fuck you all.
Yeah. What I'm going to say is that whether it's a male or female, I would like to know if she's ever been in the ring and experienced being punched in the face, being put down, being in that position, because that was disgraceful. And all I can say, mate, no wonder they want to boot this out of the Olympics, because we can't even officiate our own events properly. Now, I'm all for
100%.
I'm all for the women in boxing and being referees and judges and obviously participants. It's been great for the sport. But whether it's male or female, make sure they can do the bloody job. Now, she, or had it been a he as well, to wave it off with 2 seconds without even taking an 8 count or looking at his face, it is disgraceful. And as I said, no wonder they're going to boot it out.
Does the referee, does she have an OnlyFans page?
I don't know. I don't know.
Mate, I'm going to say, that you just said your bit. Let me just say one thing.
Yep.
All you arseholes that ruin amateur and professional boxing, that don't know the sport, they haven't had a fight, they don't know shit, that ruins a young guy's dreams, like that young kid, Alex, he'll turn pro under Tony Tolge, and he'll do very well. He's a great young man. But it makes me sick because you've been doing it for years and years, and now you're getting our beautiful sport kicked out of the Olympics in LA in 2026 or 28. Bitches like her, you fucking assholes. Fuck all you dickheads that don't know boxing. You're all a bunch of spastics. And I don't care. And I'll say my bit because I've got nothing to lose. You're a bunch of fucking spastics.
It's just really disappointing, as you said. And that's why I asked about, or brought up about, have you actually been involved? It doesn't have to even be an elite level. Just have you just been a boxer or in combat sports and actually experienced what it takes, the training that you must do, what goes through, what happens during a fight. And I don't care whether you're male or female, I'll be saying the same thing. For Christ's sake, no wonder we're not in it, because the officials can't get right. And it's one thing to go all expenses paid trip to these big tournaments, and you know what I'm talking about, all the rest of it. And then to not be able to officiate, that young kid, Alex Winwood, I saw he got stopped and went, oh shit, that's a bit of a shame. He's obviously caught one and been stopped. That is disgraceful. And, especially with the mental health of young athletes these days, to have to go through that. You're right, he's lucky that he's got someone like Tony Tolge waiting for him when he gets home, probably going to turn him pro and forget about all this shit. Because I wouldn't blame him for just, never going back to amateur again. But it's really disappointing. And, as I said, I don't care whether you're male or female. That is bullshit. Anyway.
That's right, then. Amen.
All right, let's get on to the schedule coming up, mate. So we've got 5 fighters still in business. Kay Scott will fight Alcinda Panguan. I'll see if I can get that right. I don't know what MOZ means. I thought it might have been like Mozambique or something, but I don't think they're in the Commonwealth. So maybe I'm wrong. But this is Australian time. So Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Then you've got the 75 kilos, Callum Peters against the South African. We'll call him Bonko from South Africa. He looks all right, Callum Peters.
He's a good boy, Callum Peters.
Yep, so that'll be Saturday night as well at 9:15. This is Australian time again. Eddie Kwame, the big heavyweight. Yep. This will be a tough one. Lewis Williams from England.
He
So,
goes all right as well.
yep, so that'll be Sunday, 2 a.m. Australian time. Then you've got the young girl Tina Rami versus Elizabeth Oshaba from Nigeria. That's at 4:45 a.m. So good on you if you want to stay up that late or early. And then Caitlin Parker against Tamara Thibault, we'll call them, from Canada. 5:45 a.m. So that's on Sunday morning. So support the Aussie boxers. Get on there and watch them. I know the time difference is hard, but yeah, get behind. They're all doing a great job over there. And apart from the Alex Winwood situation, yeah, good on the rest of them. It's just disappointing. But anyway, we'll cover it in full next week. All right, mate, that's about it for the Australian news. Let's get into the world news. We'll take a breath and get into that. I don't know whether, mate, you watched last week's fight. It was the Danny Garcia, Jose Benavidez Jr. fight. Really, really good fight. I was actually really impressed with Danny Garcia. What about yourself?
Yeah, mate. Look, I've always liked Danny Garcia, and great to see him back. He's a very good, well-balanced fighter. Big, great left hook. Punches in bunches, and Danny Garcia has always been a very, very great fighter. He was the lineal unified champ at 140.
Yep.
He won a welterweight title, 147, and he's only gone down to the big names, the Spence and Thurman and all them guys. And yeah, mate, it was good to see him back, and especially later on hearing about his mental health. So it was good to see him back. And mate, he's a hard fight for anyone at 154. And I'd love to see him one day, grab another belt. He could even fight Tim Tszyu down the track, mate. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he won the fight 116, 112, 117, 111, and 114, 114, which I thought was really strange because I thought Benavidez was lucky to win 2 or 3 rounds, as most of the judges thought there. And to have it 6-6, I thought was, it was really strange. But I was really impressed with Danny Garcia. He hadn't been in the ring for over 18 months. His last fight was against Errol Spence in 2020. So, I thought he boxed really well. A little bit concerned about his size. He looks really small as a light middleweight, so maybe he'll bulk up a little bit. I think he'd be probably still more suited to Wilder, because you imagine him in there with monsters like Tim Tszyu and Charlo and those types of guys. I mean, he's only small, but anyway, as I said, maybe he'll bulk up.
What about the big Sebastian Fedora?
Yeah, well, what is he? He looks like he's about 5'6", Garcia. That'd be a bit of a feat, wouldn't it, against a 6'3" or 4" Fundora? But look, he's talking about fighting Keith Thurman again. I'm not sure whether that's a fight that people will get excited about, but overall, but I'm with you, mate. One thing that really impressed me afterwards was what he said about the mental health, and he'd suffered from the anxiety and depression, in the past. And I think sometimes we see the elite athletes in the world as being sort of superheroes, and it was really, I had a new bit of admiration for Garcia afterwards, because I must admit I've never really been a big fan, or his dad, but to hear him talk like that reminded me a little bit of what's the UFC guy that spoke recently, Paddy the Baddy, or whatever they call him. Hopefully this hits the spot and gets men that are having issues to talk up, because it is a real problem in the world today, and it's good to see these guys actually speaking out about it. And I did actually see as well that apparently the phone calls and all that sort of stuff to the helplines have gone through the roof since the UFC fighter said it, and hopefully this will be a little bit the same. So, but anyway. But yeah, apart from that, mate, I was really impressed with Danny Garcia. Let's get on to some other news. It was only announced in the last day or so. Joseph Parker, Joe Joyce. I really liked his fight, confirmed for September 24 in England. They had the press conference yesterday, I think it was. Yeah, really, really happy with his fight, and I think the winner obviously should get a shot at the world title.
Yeah, mate, it's a good fight. Joel Joyce, former Olympian medalist, and he's going along nicely as a pro. Joseph Parker, former world champion, he sort of had a few fights back on the road to redemption to get another shot, and this is a really crossroads battle. This is a really good fight. Yeah, this is really just under the big names, like obviously Joshua, Usyk and Fury, but this is not much under them. This is a really good fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I must admit, I met Joe Joyce once in Vegas. I didn't know who he was.
You told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did tell you. I was with the Maloneys and they knew him and said g'day. But silver medalist at Olympic Games, so obviously can go a bit. I'd like to see Joseph Parker's been just okay in his last couple of fights. I thought, the Chisora fight, I thought, look, he just got through, but I'd like to see him get a little bit more killer instinct in him. He looks just a bit passive to me at the moment, and he better find something against Joe Joyce because he's going to come out swinging, you think. So, but a good fight for the heavyweight division.
I met Joseph Parker at the Gambosis, Haney Wayne.
Yep.
Great bloke. Really, really nice guy. And I wish him all the best. I'll be rooting for him. But I think Joyce wins this one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I tend to agree.
I'm rooting for Parker.
Yeah, no, exactly. The other news, mate, this week, our old mate Jake Paul, he actually was going to have a real title, not a title fight, but a real fight. And for the second time, it's been cancelled it's been pulled out from under his feet. So originally it was Tommy Fury, and now Hassim Rahman. And over the weight, now apparently the contracted weight was 200. And at the time it was signed, I think, or 60 days prior, whatever it was, 30 days prior, Rahman was 216. So that was in line with the WBC protocols. And then this week, he'd only lost 1 pound, so it was still 215 and wanted to come in at 215. And of course, they've said no, so that means the fight is over. Now, you can't really blame Jake Paul in this instance. That's pretty piss poor from Rahman. I know he came out on social media and tried to pretty much put it on Jake Paul, but as much as what we think about Jake Paul, at least he's trying to take on these guys, but they're really not his fault that they're not as professional as they should be.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you sign a contract, then you obviously obey by that contract. So, I mean, if he's broken the rules that were set down for that fight, then obviously the blame is not on Paul. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of giving people these weight clauses because you should just fight in a division.
Yeah.
If you're this weight. I don't like hydration clauses. I don't like catch weights.
Yeah.
But if this guy signed the contract, Lyndon, then Jake Paul isn't to blame.
Yeah, and as I said, like we haven't really been fans of him since he started, of course, and I'm still to be convinced. But the fact he was actually going to fight 2 fighters, there is a bit of a conspiracy theory, I will say, though, that I've seen in that they've signed these guys up deliberately knowing they can't make weight or they can't get their visas or whatever, and that way they don't have to fight them, but they can say, well, we wanted to fight, they pulled out. I don't really believe that. That's a bit of a conspiracy theory that's out there. But anyway, who knows with these guys, mate? It's all about the coin, so who knows? But anyway, that's about it for Jake. That's about as much coverage as he gets on this show, unfortunately. One thing I just wanted to quickly go over, mate, we're a couple of weeks away from Joshua Usyk 2. Now, this is actually, I did see something that really touched the heartstrings. It's actually going to be free in the Ukraine. Ukraine. Usyk actually offered to buy the rights so he could show it live in Ukraine on pay-per-view. And the Saudis actually said, no, you can have it for free. So it's a really good outcome for everyone.
Yeah. No, I saw that, mate. Yeah, that's really good, mate.
Yeah.
Usyk's a very proud Ukrainian.
Yeah, no, so it's good. And I think it's going to be on State TV and also Usyk's YouTube page. So obviously only be available if you're in Ukraine. But no, that was good, mate. Before we get on to... Actually, we'll get on the talking points first, and then we'll go back to the amateur top 10, because I want to spend, obviously, as much time as you need to on it. So we'll get into the talking points. I've got 3 different ones for you tonight before you fall asleep. Remember, you've still got to go to work yet, so just have a Red Bull and stay with us.
I train about 8 clients today, and then I go to work at a bar from 10 till 3, so...
And then you do this as well, mate, so it's much appreciated. All right, let's get on to talking point number 1. Do belts mean as much these days? Now, what I mean by that, Ryan Garcia this week came out and said that belts, I think we might have touched on this anyway in one of the episodes, that he's saying that belts don't mean as much anymore. They've been watered down that much and sanitised that much. He doesn't care whether he has a belt or not, because it's all about the name and how many pay-per-views they can sell and obviously how many bums on seats they can get. And the titles these days, the sanctioning bodies have only got themselves to blame because they've got so many different incarnations of the belt. Now, I reckon he actually makes a point. I don't necessarily 100% agree, but he makes a point.
Yeah, it's been watered down. I mean, look, Lyndon, being champion of the world back in the one belt era, that was, massive. I mean, look, the 1940s and 50s and 60s and 70s and whenever, I'm not sure when they actually became two belts to start off with and then 3, 4. But to be the champ, the one belt champion, was meant everything. You were the undisputed king of your division. Over the years, I mean, it's still great to be a world champ, but they have watered it down. I mean, there's four major belts now. Some of these belts, there's 3 belts for that belt. As we know, the WBA has had an interim, a regular, and a super. And then WC started bringing a numerous and super champion. And look, so it's still, great to be a world champion. I mean, I think someone that hasn't had a belt, like a Ryan Garcia, who hasn't had one belt, should be still aiming for that. If you've been a champion and held a few belts, like a Canelo or a Floyd, it doesn't matter. I can see what he's saying. I agree partly like you do. But I think, that should be said when you've already been champion. If you haven't literally been a world champion yet, and we're talking about Davis versus Garcia, look, that's a massive fight. That's a pay-per-view. That's an interesting fight for people in boxing and outside of boxing. But both aren't champions. Like, Davis hasn't got a lightweight title because Haney has them all, as we know.
Yeah.
And Garcia hasn't had even won a title yet. So I can understand what he's saying. I just don't think he's got the right to say that now. I only think a Canelo or a Floyd or a Manny of that stature. But they have fucked it, Lyndon. The sanctioning bodies have ruined it. All these different belts, like three champions in the one one belt the WBA there was. Probably not now, but so I mean it's about greed and money. We spoke about it before, Lyndon. They have watered it down and made it probably not as prestigious as what it once was.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I did see that the WBA and WBC weren't overly impressed by his comments. I'm not sure how he will go getting the title down the track. I'm sure, money talks, of course. But, look, I think I do agree with him that they have been watered down so much that they don't have the same relevance, or not relevance, but the same, I don't know. But on the other hand, you're right. If you're a professional fighter, you're aspiring to win the belt. That's why you're in it for. I know it's all about the money and stuff.
That. Look, mate, he's got to win one first. He hasn't won one yet.
Yeah.
So,
no, you're right. It's easy to say when you haven't had a belt yet. So we'll see if his attitude changes when if he actually wins a belt. So we'll keep track of that one. The other one, DAZN not winning over fans. Now, this is the Canelo Triple G. There's been a bit of a backlash about the Canelo Triple G pay-per-view. Now, in the States, it's $85 US. In Canada, it's $90. The UK, it's £30. No, actually, it worked £30 or sterling, whatever the hell it is. In Australia, it's $60 and New Zealand $40. So I'm not sure what everyone's sort of complaining about. It's been that price for, I would think, quite some time. I think we spoke about this last week with the UK going on about the Joshua, was it Joshua Roussell? One of those, or was it this one? Carrying on, they've got to pay £30, which works out to $50 Australian. I mean, we're paying $60 for every one.
Yeah.
All right, and the other thing is that when DAZN actually came in, they promised there'd be no pay-per-views. And now they're obviously doing pay-per-views.
Well, that's a bit different. I mean, obviously their business plan hasn't worked the way they thought it would, mate. Like what was it, $2?
Well, that's the thing here.
Something to start.
Yeah, I've let mine lapse. I haven't renewed it because it went from $2 to $15 without really much notice. And the quality of fights I've had on lately haven't been overly great, so I just didn't renew it once it ran out. I had it for a year, and
I'm the same. either.
And I'm not saying, it's got to be $2. I'm not getting it, but go from 2 to 15. Maybe I went from 2 to, I don't know, $7.50 or whatever it might be. Maybe just to get us all on board and then slug us, an extra $13 a month. It's a bit rich if you ask me. So they're not doing themselves any favours. And apparently in the States, they're really struggling to get a bit of a foothold over there. It's not probably the way to go about it by charging so much for a pay-per-view. Last one, mate. We're going back to our old mate again, Jake Paul. Does he actually believe what he's saying? He was saying that he wants to fight Canelo and he reckons he can beat Canelo. Surely he doesn't believe that, does he? No comment?
Not even worth me breath, mate. I'll fight him.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, good on him. He's got the eyeballs on him, but to actually come out to say that he can't wait to fight Canelo and he's 100% serious that he can beat Canelo, Jake, mate,
stick to fighting MMA fighters and WWE fighters but don't talk about fighting super champions when you're not even a fucking contender.
Yeah.
Like you're not even. You've done nothing in boxing.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of Jake. I did say that was going to be it, but I forgot that we had a talking point that involves him. So I think we got the point home there. Let's go back to the Aussie part, mate, because I want to get to the amateurs now. As we said at the start, we don't talk a lot about the amateurs, but we've obviously got a very, staunch background in amateur boxing in different ways. So I did my list on my Talking Boxing show on Monday night. So again, make sure you check it out. It's live. And as I said, I got some feedback. I'm going to put my amateur top 10 up now. This is the modern era, by the way. I didn't go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s because I don't know enough about it. It was 80s onwards. All right, so I know
that's where I'm going to. That's where I'm going to be different to you with that.
Yeah, I don't comment on things I don't know anything about. I know there's Tony Madigan who fought Cassius Clay, and I know all that, but I don't. I've never seen him fight, so I can't comment. So I'm going to put mine up. I'm going to quickly run through it. So I had Robbie Peden at number 1, Graham Spike Sheeny at number 2, Justin Roussell at number 3, Justin Crawford at number 4, Darren Obama at number 5, Stephen Scriggins at number 6, Harry Garside at number 7, Shannon Taylor at number 8, Hussein at number 9, and Daniel Gill at number 10. I had some honourable mentions. I had Jamie Nicholson, I had Paul Miller, I had Richie Rolls, maybe Rick Timperi. Now, after the feedback, I've got to understand that probably the main one, look, overall it was pretty well received. Probably the only one that wasn't received that well was Jamie Nicholson, Admission. Now, I must admit, I was in two minds. He was probably coming at number 11 on my list, I will say. But after speaking to his peers, as in Robbie Peden, Justin Crawford, I know you spoke with Justin Roussell on social media. They're his peers. They all said he should be ranked really highly. So I'm going to take that on board and say that I probably got it wrong. Because who better to rate a fighter than their peers who are all, in the top 10. So I've got to actually take that on board. My criteria, I must admit, was to actually be an Olympian. I probably went away from that with Shannon Taylor at number 8, I think. So, look, I'm not going to back away from it, but I do take on board. It wasn't criticism; it was just some comments, and as I said, I do take it on board. But it's a real hard exercise anyway. It's really tough.
Yeah, mate. Look, it's a good. You got people talking about amateur boxing, and so and it's a great idea by you to do that because people are talking about it. So look, mine's a bit different. I mean, I'm including fighters from any era because I don't think you can. I mean, you can say from the modern era, but it's like my friend Adele was saying, I always speak from the modern era. But I like, if we're talking all the time, you got to, for me, you got to talk about the guys from any era.
Yep.
And another criteria too, it's not just being an Olympian for me either. It's actually winning some international competitions as well. Like you go to the Olympics, Lyndon, you go to the Commonwealth Games, they're the two big ones, but to win a King's Cup or a Mayor's Cup or a Liverpool Cup or United Nations, you got to understand to win some international tournaments as well.
Yep.
That's a big thing, and also too, Lyndon, ones that have won many Australian titles just to dominate.
Well, that's why I had Darren Obama in there.
Well, I've got someone in there too. I'll be surprised if you don't know this name because I know you say you might not pay attention to back in the day, but someone like you, I respect.
Yep.
A lot. I think if you're in boxing, you hear everything. I mean, not same as me. I mean, you was a better amateur than me, Linda, but I just pay attention to everything. But maybe I'm a bit of a nerd. But anyway,
that's all right. We'll start at number 10.
Yeah. So I've got Daniel Gill at number 10.
All right. So same as me. I'm going to do this as we go. Yeah.
Commonwealth gold medalist. He won, I think, probably about 6 Australian titles. He won some international tournaments as well. Not sure. I know for a fact he did, and he was just a very dominant in his era. Daniel used to lose to a guy called Chris Hamilton, and Chris had the wood over him a fair few times. But once Daniel hit his straps, no one come close to him. He beat Jed O'Mahony many times. He beat He beat Jamie Pittman. He dominated the Australian scene and was always the Australian representative for many tournaments from, I'd say, 2000 to 2004. Totally dominated. It wasn't even a question who was going to win the Nationals that year. If he was in Gilly's division, he was getting beat. Simple.
Yeah.
So I've got Daniel Gill there.
Number 9.
Paul Magic Miller. My opinion, probably the most technical sound out of everyone in Australian boxing. He was a beautiful southpaw. You fought him, I think his first Nationals as a senior, Lyndon, and you beat him. Great effort. But he went on to dominate after that. I went away to the Oceania Games in 99, so I've seen him firsthand. And also Daniel Gill. I've seen Daniel Gill firsthand as well in the Tassie team. So, Paul Miller, Commonwealth Games gold medal, international tournaments. I know he won a few as well. He dominated, for many years, mate. He Olympian, and he beat actually a good American, Revelio, Puerto Rican American, who became a good pro. Beat him in Olympia. Just dominated, and anyone who knows Paul Magic Miller, especially if you're a Queenslander, mate, he's one of the slickest boxers and technical guys that we've ever had.
Yep. Number 8.
The guy that you missed out, Jamie Nicholson.
Yeah.
I think he got a bronze at the World Championships, the first Aussie to do it in Russia. I think it was Moscow '89. I think he got a silver at the Commonwealth Games or bronze. He was ranked number 1 in the world at the time, the first Aussie to do so. And he's just a dominant southpaw, mate. He might not have been an exciting fighter, but he was. He just picked you apart. He actually beat Justin Roussell in the amateurs, and he beat Crawford in the juniors. He dominated everyone. Very respected by that '92 Olympic team of Crawford, Peden, Scriggins, and Perry and Roussell. They all love him. And he was a beautiful boxer, Lyndon, and he was a great dominant champion.
He was. Yep, no, for sure, mate. And it's hard to believe it's been nearly 30 years he's left us, and the name lives on, of course, in his sister Sky, and his family that are still doing great things in Queensland boxing as well.
100%, mate.
Number 7.
The great Darren Obama.
Yeah.
I think 8-time Australian champion, always a senior, just dominated every year in welterweight and light middleweight. He went to the '88 Seoul Olympics. He went over international competition for years and years, and was unlucky to miss out on the Barcelona Olympics. He was the number 1. He was the number 1 guy. He got beat at the '91 World Championships, and Arthur Tunstall didn't pick him. But mate, he dominated every year. And as I said, if you're in Darren Obar's division, you probably weren't getting past him. So he was a dominant force in Oz boxing, and 8 Australian titles in a row. You're hard to go past that.
Yeah. Number 6.
Don't know if you know this name, Lyndon. He's a Tasmanian.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Devlin.
I do know Wayne Devlin. I don't know a lot of his exports. I do know that he was a Tasmanian fighter, but I wasn't actually quite sure of his achievements. So fill us in.
Well, he was also an 8-time Australian champion. Obar equalled him.
Yep.
He went to 2 Olympics. He was a southpaw, and Arthur Tunstall often said that he was his favourite fighter ever. He was just, a great...
What Olympics did he go to, mate?
Yeah, I've got him here. Got him right here.
Was it maybe the 60s?
Yeah, no, I think so here we go. 1972 and 1976.
Yep. So it was at Munich and Montreal.
Yeah. And he dominated, as I said, 8 Australian titles. Just a great boxer, and from Launceston, the same town as Daniel Gill.
Yep. Yeah, no, I had heard of him, but as I said, I don't know enough about him to consider him. That's why I did mine from the 80s onwards.
No,
but you
right,
obviously been a Tassie boy, you know him really well, so that's some great credentials right there. Number 5.
A dear friend of mine, Cowboy, Justin Roussell.
Yeah.
You had him in yours.
I had him number 3. Yep.
Yeah, he was a great amateur, mate. International competitions, he dominated. He won some medals. He Commonwealth Games. He probably should have won gold that year. I think he got a medal. 92 Olympian, but he beat a Bulgarian called. I think he beat a guy. I think he split a couple of decisions against Todorov. And he also got a win over the German that beat De La Hoya at the World Championships, and De La Hoya beat him. He also fought Shane Mose in the amateurs.
Yeah, I remember that.
He didn't beat Shane, but mate, he was one of our dominant guys. It was a bit of the class of him and Nicholson, Scriggins, sort of Pete and a bit younger, Crawford. They were in that famous 91 World Championship team and 92 Olympic team. So Justin Roussell, hands down, one of our greatest ever.
100%, mate. Number 4.
My man, my Tasmanian, Justin Crawford, my gym mate at the age of 13, taught me so much. And this guy, 2 Olympic Games, 92, 96, and had to run into the great Lesbiak twice. And actually, Lesbiak came back in 2000 and won gold in his 3 Olympics. Crawford won many international tournaments. I think Mayor's Cup, King's Cup. He medalled a lot of medals. Too many that probably top of my head. But he was a dominant guy, and as well, I think he won 8 Australian titles as well.
He did.
I think he had 6 senior, 2 junior. Same thing, Lyndon. If you had Crawford in the division, you probably weren't confident of getting through that year. His reign, he dominated for many, many years and never lost to an Aussie until right to the end. Yeah. So he had a great career, and he's definitely one of our greatest fighters ever, Justin Pac-Man Crawford.
All right, mate, I'm actually intrigued who you've got. I think I would know who 2 of them are. I'm intrigued to see who the other one is. Who's number 3?
We'll go with Spike Chaney. He won many Australian titles. I'm not aware of any other international medals besides obviously the big one, the silver at the Olympics, which he beat Iquarte, a future legend world champion. He actually avenged the defeat to the Russian.
He did.
So the guy that he lost to the gold medal, he got silver. he revenged him and beat the Russian gold medalist. And it's hard to go past that silver medal at the Olympics. And
Do you remember? Sorry, mate. Do you remember that on that show they did? This is when Sky Channel was around. They had a live fight night, like a pro night, but it was an amateur night with Spike Sheeny and the Russian as the main event, of course. And they had all the best Aussies amateurs on the undercard. It was a bloody ripper show, I remember.
I do remember that.
And they marketed like they would a pro show, but it was an amateur show on Sky Channel. And if you're not familiar with Sky Channel, back in the day before Foxtel and everything, so that was it. That was the pay-per-view, or not pay-per-view. You had to go to the pub to watch it, and good days. But anyway,
No, I remember, mate. Yeah, so Spike Cheney.
Yep.
And look, I'm going to say, because I've left someone out, and obviously you're going to pull me up for it later, but I am aware too, you can have a bit of a good tournament as well.
Yep.
Like you might just peak at a tournament and have a really good tournament. And you're pretty much on fire for that tournament. But I'm a bit more about regular international medals and really dominated the Australian scene of really a lot of Australian titles and a lot of the quality, guys that you beat. A lot of good, like Justin Crawford beat guys that, so many guys that become pro champions, Bajiro, McLeod, Garth Cushion, Philip Swann. So a bit like that. But anyway, we'll go to number 2. The great Tony Madigan.
Yep.
3 Olympic Games. I've got him here.
Fought Cassius Clay, of course.
Games. Fought Muhammad Ali twice, so he fought him at the New York Golden Gloves, believe it or not. And then he fought him at the Rome Olympics as well, where he got bronze. So, 3 Olympic Games. And also got 3 Olympics, a bronze medal to Ali, fighting Ali at the New York Golden Gloves and give him a tough fight. And they all wanted to make Floyd Patterson at the time, Archie Moore, all offered to fight him as a pro. This guy was really highly credentialed all around the world, mate. So I definitely got him as my number 2.
Yep, no, fair enough. So I've got a feeling I know who number 1 is, but drum roll.
The great Robbie Bomber Peden. I'm probably blessed to be, I came up in his era, at his peak. To watch Robbie Peden at the Nationals was just watching a fine oiled machine go to work. He looked like he was levels above all his opponents, and there were some great guys around them days, but he just looked like it was a step ahead of him. And internationally, mate, like King's Cup, Mayor's Cup, Liverpool Cup, knockout of the King's Cup, they replayed it on ESPN. 92 Olympics, he won his first 2 fights, lost to the Korean gold medalist. 96 Atlanta Olympics, he won his first fight, lost to the guy that eventually beat Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, Todorov.
And the guy that won gold from Korea, Robbie Peden, had beaten him at a tournament earlier that year.
And the 94 Commonwealth Games gold medal.
94 Commonwealth Games gold medal. He dominated. He was just... you went away with him, Lyndon. He was on fire, mate. He had so much skill and talent, and just, he looked like he was always a second ahead of his opponent. He looked like he could make his opponent miss, sit there for a little bit. He had time, and then he'd counter. He just, and he could punch too, and he had it all, mate. So I've always said Robbie Peden is the greatest amateur we've ever had.
Yeah, no, he's and a great character as well.
Yeah, but what a great company he's with. I also want to give my
honourable mention.
What do you say? honourable mention. Obviously, Harry Garside, won a silver medal at the Olympics and a gold
Bronze.
at the Commonwealth Games. So, look, it just misses out. I mean, look, I don't know. I don't think he won any international tournaments besides that. He's a great fighter. He's done a great job at the Olympics. He was really on that Olympics. But with all these other guys and their regular turn, I know a medal at the Olympics is huge, but, my criteria is a bit different. It might be right, it might be wrong, but it's my criteria. I've got Hussein, a great Olympian, Commonwealth Games rep. He went to many international competitions. He dominated the Australian scene. Richard Rolls, two-time Olympian, dominated the Australian scene. Went on Commonwealth Games, went on many international trips, and he went to the 96 and 2000 Olympic Games. I've got Stephen Scriggins, obviously, great fighter. He went to World Championships. He dominated Australia. I think he had the wood on another friend of mine I'm going to mention, Shannon Taylor. They had some great fights. I think Scriggins won a couple of those, but Shannon Taylor beat Spike Cheney after he won an Olympic medal. He also, Shannon Taylor gave Costa Tszyu a great fight at a tournament when Costa Tszyu was, the best in Russia. So Shannon Taylor, Scriggins. I want to give you a mention, Lyndon.
Thanks, mate.
An Olympian. You won, 3 or 4 Oceanias. You dominated the Australian scene. You had many knockouts, and you were a Commonwealth Games rep and a very good amateur. I've got Damon Hooper. When he was at his best, he was on fire. I think he won a junior Olympics gold medal, or maybe a junior worlds, but he was amazing. And he also beat a good American at the Olympic Games. And he was and lost to Russia. I think eventual gold medalist. Great fighter. I want to chuck in Jared Fletcher. When Jared Fletcher was on, no one was as good as Jared Fletcher. World championship competitor, many international games, many Australian titles, Commonwealth Games gold medal. I want to mention Luke Jackson, my Tasmanian brother, Olympic captain in 2012. He went undefeated in Australia for 4 years. He was unbeaten it was actually longer, wasn't it? Hang on. He went undefeated in Australia for like 4 to 6 years. He beat everyone at the national. He beat Corey McConnell. He beat Paul Fleming 3 times. He beat Joel Brunker. He beat Gambosius twice. He beat Val Borg. He beat everyone. Olympic Games captain, Commonwealth Games bronze medalist, 2 world championships. Luke Jackson, just a great fighter. Todd Kidd, another Olympian, Australian rep, won many Australian titles. Dave Birchall, another great fighter. He beat a Russian once. He beat a good Russian in King's Cup, international competitor. Another great champion. And a great Aboriginal Indigenous fighter, Joey Donovan, Olympic Games back in the day, flyweight, won many Australian titles. And rest in peace. He was a legend and become a referee at the National. So that's pretty much around my. Sorry if I missed anyone.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say, I think I had in my one as well. James Swann as well was another great young amateur. I mean, there's too many to. Yeah.
2-time Olympian, 2 bronze medalists Commonwealth Games. I think he medalled at the Liverpool Cup, Multi-Nations Cup, and obviously I fought Swanee. He's a legend.
Yeah, and one other I was just going to throw in there quickly. Jai Patel, let's not forget, he won a junior world title and was the youngest ever Olympian as well. Obviously, he didn't have the longevity of some of these guys, but just imagine if he had stuck around the amateurs for a few more years. Who knows what he could have achieved?
Well, who knows what he could have done too if he would have went that last Olympic.
Exactly. All right, so quick rundown, mate. So number 10 was Daniel Gill. Number 9 was Paul Miller. Number 8 was Jamie Nicholson. Number 7 was Darren Obama. Number 6 was Wayne Devlin. 5 was Justin Roussell. 4 was Justin Crawford. 3 was Graham Spike Sheeny. Number 2 was Tony Madigan. And number 1 was the Bomber, Robbie Peden. So we agreed on quite a few of them, but it depends on how you interpret it. But either way, it's a good exercise anyway, and I'd be interested to get a few more opinions out there from everyone in a nice way. Let's not throw insults or anything like that, but in a nice way.
Yeah. yeah, feel free to comment and put up your top 10 guys. And I'm happy we're on this topic because it will educate a lot of you guys about amateur boxing. You know what I mean? How great it is. You know what I mean?
No, that was good, mate. It's a really good exercise. I wouldn't mind throwing something like this in every now and then. I know we analyse and discuss the current news and stuff, but just to throw something out there and discuss it if there's time, of course. And this week, of course, we've got no quiz, so that filled the spot just nicely. So
I reckon it was good, Lyndon. As I said, mate, we're both from the amateur background of, you know, being state reps, Australian reps, and all that. And I mean, you got to be amateur before you turn pro. So you got to know where you come from before you know where you're going. So the amateur pedigree, and usually if you're a good amateur of high quality, you're a good pro. I mean, in America, if you're an American representative, Olympian, Golden Gloves, you're going to be a world champion. If you're a good Russian, Ukrainian, German, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, if you're a medalist for any of them countries, you're going to probably win a world title as a pro, like a Golovkin or a Kovalev or a Bedayev or a Bivlov, or Kostazoo. So, let's tell our viewers, brush up more on your amateur boxing, guys. Research amateur boxing. Do me a favour. I'm going to give you some homework, our Boxing Deep Dive viewers. Research 84 Olympic Games, the American team.
Oh.
Research the 76 Olympic American team. Research
98. 88. 1988, another one.
Research 88, Roy Jones, Michael Cupper.
Riddick Bowe.
Research
Ray Mercer.
92, Lewis Bowe. Research 92, the great De La Hoya. And then research Cuban greats like Swann and Stevenson. Research Kostazoo's amateur career.
Yeah.
And then come back and talk to us about it.
Yeah. No, well said, mate. No, that was really good. Good to see you've done your homework and got a lot of information there. That was great, mate. So yeah, if you're out there, make sure you research a little bit into the amateur scene because it's.
I've known this stuff since I was 10 years old, Lyndon. Yeah. So this is just natural for me, mate.
Good stuff, mate. No, thanks very much for that. All right, mate. Well, we'll see you next week anyway. Really appreciate you coming, mate. Have fun at work, more importantly, and we'll catch you next time. See you, mate.
Thanks, mate.